Alright, cool, I'm gonna bone out.
What up, everybody? Zach D again. I'm stuck in this trim phase right now on these apartment buildings, so I'm just trying to search for anything I could do a video about. Today, I'm just going to kind of go over how I start a trim or approach a trim for efficiency, so I can just kind of burn through it. As some of you may know, trim has to get done as fast as possible, but still maintaining quality. But it's a phase of our job that needs to get done as quickly as possible. So I generally start by passing everything out right next to every box that it goes to, so that anybody who doesn't know just knows that, well, hey, I get to this box, I need to put that device in there and that plate on there. This actually works with a number of things, like these lights. I have them set out. If you're having like a newer guy set up all of this stuff and pass out everything, what that can do is kind of get them knowledgeable and understanding of what devices go where. Multi-part thing. It's a teaching tool and it's efficiency tool. So if you can just get used to passing out 100% of devices before you start, it immensely increases your speed. And then you can keep adding in stuff like holding a trash box or making sure you pick up your wrappers. Some people just leave the trash till the end, and you know, one of the people go around and grab all the trash at the end. That's also a way, but hey, however you do it works, just as long as it gets done. After I've passed out, I usually pick like a device in a line and I just start doing everything. So I would pass out the switch, the outlet, etc. And if I start at this switch, I'm not gonna just go and do every single switch. I'm gonna do that switch, do that outlet, I'm gonna round this corner, do that outlet, and just so on and so forth. I'm gonna take a line and just follow that line all the way through and not skip any devices because I don't want to bend over. I'm just going to continue along the path until they're all done. Another thing to look for when you're trimming devices out is any of these small nicks. I know you can barely tell that that's there, but when they cut these boxes out with the sheetrock miter saws or whatever it is they use, on occasion, if this is made up poorly and the wire is too close to the edge when they're putting the sheetrock on, they can nick that, and if you don't notice it because you're trying to go so fast, which we all are, but you really got to like look and see if there's any of these nicks, because if there are, you need to decide whether or not, if they just touch the sheathing, and if they just nick the sheathing and the conductor's still fine, you can put some tape over it. But if they've actually cut into the conductor or routed it, however you want to call it, you should really clip that off, and if it's too short at that point, go get another piece of whatever color conductor and size conductor this is, and go ahead and just tie another length on, because what this does is it impedes the ability of the electricity to travel around it, because the electricity travels around the diameter of the conductor. So therefore, if it's nicked, then it's actually reduced the diameter. And so, yeah, it's not going to perform at its best and probably lead to later issues. Also, even just immediately as I put this in, if it's touching grounds, I can't see it in the back there, then it's going to trip. And someone will probably spend a significant amount of time trying to figure out which device is tripping a circuit. If you come to a box and the tapers or sheet rockers have done something like this to where it actually impedes the edge of the box, you should really just get into the habit of scoring these and just lightly cutting this out. It's just good practice to do this. Makes the device fit better, and it just shows that you're taking pride in your work. Sorry about the shaky camera work. This is difficult to do one-handed, but yeah, you should always clean this out. You shouldn't just leave it. I know you can totally just put the device in there, but I mean, that's just a severe lack of effort in my opinion. This is the perfect scenario to show everybody kind of what you're looking for. If everything is boxed properly and the sheetrock's up, this is about the gap that you want between the wall and the box. Now, since I have an adjustable, I can kind of show you. This is an adjustable single gang, by the way. If there is a gap like this, you need to install a arc shield or goof ring, as some people call them. there can't be a gap between this box and the wall. If there is, you need one of those. I don't have one on me. I'll show you one maybe next time, but yeah, I'm gonna take this box here and retract it back out very slowly, of course. You can damage the sheetrock if you do it improperly, but I'm gonna take it back out to this. That's what I wanna see. If it's sticking further out, that can complicate things. The device will actually kick off the wall and the plate won't sit flush. So this is what you wanna see, and this all comes down to whoever boxed it and if they did it properly. If you use these adjustable boxes, it kind of clears a lot of that stuff up, but they are very expensive and most companies only use them in certain scenarios. So you should really just get used to, boxing everything properly. And again, we run into the sheetrockers hit this wire. So just remember, if you see anything like this, you gotta do something about it. Preferably just cut it off and tie a new length on, because this got hit pretty bad, so it actually went into the conductor. This is an installation of a Decora outlet. As you can see, it's got all your standard components on it. It's got the gold screws, which the black conductor goes on. That's the hot conductor. It's got the silver screws where the neutral conductor goes on. You have the option to stab them in. You can strip it out and stab them into these holes. Some people do not like doing that. I've heard many stories about having to do troubleshoots or going to fix something at a house that is already trimmed out and has been lived in, where these fail. And sometimes I've even seen them to where a whole half of a house doesn't work because something surged and blew the conductor out of the back of this. So that's something to think about. I know for speed, most of us use the stab ins, but some of the people who have big opinions on this really don't like to use them. They like to just use the screws because it's a better connection. So I'll be doing the screws for this one just as a demonstration. So sorry about this angle. I'm kind of limited seeing as I'm at work and I'm just trying to get this done to also make an informative video. So I'm going to take my ground and I'm going to stick the ground just a little bit through this hole on my strippers, curl it up just enough to be able to slip out. I'm going to, like I said, use the screws. So you strip out quite a bit of wire for this. And again, you only want to stick a little bit through and make this curl. You don't want to go crazy and strip out a ton, but you do need enough to make this curl and make it stripped out on the entire portion. So from there, I always start with my ground first. That way at the end, my device will be right side up. Now, I've seen some people put outlets upside down and they are adamant about the fact that, their way is right, but there definitely is like a certain orientation of an outlet that it is intended to be, and I'll show you more what I mean by that. So again, the silver screw is for the neutral, white and silver. And then when I flip it over, see it's right side up, this is the right orientation. You can put these however you want, but they're intended to be this side up. So then I'm going to take the black conductor, the hot, and I'm going to put it on the gold screw. Now good practice is to just put these screws in just so there's less likelihood of the ground coming in contact with them. You don't have to, but it is good practice. So I'm going to stick the wires back all the way to the back, create a bend here, and then create another smaller bend because I really want to keep this ground out of the way. Never want the ground to touch anything in there. It will create a trip or an arc. I'm going to get the bottom screw in first, like most of my other devices I've done a installation on. I won't sink it all the way down. I'm going to get it there and then make sure it's kind of like flush, not like wonky like that. I'll kick it to one side or the other. I always go to the right, or typically I always go to the right. And again, I'm just going to get these sank down right to the point that they're just flush with the sheetrock and they're not sinking. You do not want to sink any of these devices in, it will look bad. So then I'll start this screw and then I'll go up top and start that screw. I'll sink this one all the way. Screws straight up and down. because aesthetically that's just the best look. And for most of these devices, a few exclusions apply, but for like Decora switches and outlets, you really want this plug and plate to be flush. You don't want it to be sank in or protruding out really almost at all. But yeah, that's a Decora outlet. It's not really any different than a duplex outlet. Next, I'm going to show you the installation of one of these USB devices. It's got a USB port, a USB-C port, and obviously your duplex outlet. One thing to notice is these are a very large device, so if you can, you should try to pick a box with the least amount of wires coming into it as possible. And when you're wiring initially, if at rough time, if you know where the USB outlets are going to go, you should game plan accordingly, and hopefully you can limit the amount of wires that come into the box, or you're just going to have to be pinpoint on that makeup. Now it's got your ground at the bottom, it's got your silver screw for the neutral, and your gold screw for the hot. So the black, white, copper. So yeah, we'll go from there. Pardon me for the angle, I can only do so much when I'm at work, so I'm really trying here. So hopefully you can see everything. I always start with my ground. I get it through the hole on my strippers just a little bit, make the curl. I want a good hook on here. If these wires are kind of mangled at the end, I'll go ahead and I'll just clip them flat so that they go in better, because I'm going to use the flaps on the screw. On this specific device, it doesn't have stab ends, it just has these terminals where the screws are. So I'm going to take the hook and I'm going to loop it around the ground. Now sometimes if this ground's going to give you problems, you can go ahead and just retract it out a little bit. Sometimes they come screwed in a little bit, so you might have to retract them out a bit. Hook it around. It's got this little channel. I don't know if you can see that it sits in. It's the best way to ensure that you get a tight hold on this ground. Some devices, the grounds tend to fall off, so you really got to make sure they're tight. Now what I meant by these terminals, instead of looping it around the screw, it's got these little shields that you slide the conductor under while making sure it's only copper touching it, not the white sheathing. And then I'm going to take the black wire, put it under the gold terminal. Okay, now you can see this device is upside down. I need to flip it right side up. A lot of trains of thoughts on what's right side up, but this is how they're intended to go in, and you can tell that by all the symbolism and lettering on it. Now, like usual, I'm going to start with the bottom screw. Get that in a little bit. Get the top one in. Pick which side of the box it's going to go in best. These USB plugs, like I said, they're pretty hefty plugs, so you kind of got to do some fine tuning with them. I'll take my screwdriver and bend it just a little bit so it's more flush with the wall. And I'll go ahead and sink it the rest of the way down. You don't want to go crazy with any device. They should not get sunk in. If it's sunk in, you're doing something wrong. Now, one thing about these USB devices, they stick out of the plate, whereas all the other devices you want flush. These ones, just the way they're designed, they don't go flush. So remember that. And you don't want to go crazy on these plate screws. You literally just want the plate to be resting on the wall with no gaps. And if you have to go super tight with that, you're doing something wrong on the installation. As you can see here, it's a little bit wonky, so I'll take this, I'll kind of just bend it a little bit. You don't want to ream on it, you can break the device. These USB devices can kind of be a pain in the ass. So yeah, remember that. So I hope this video just gave you a basic rundown on how you can be more efficient at trim time. Like I said, trim needs to be done pretty quickly. It's not something that takes a ton of skill. Obviously, if you're brand new, it's going to be a whole new world for you, but as soon as you pick up all the basics and understand what you're doing, it can be done so fast and still maintain a lot of quality. So hopefully you gain some insight and pick some tips up from this video. Thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Even if you got something alternative to say about what I'm doing, that's cool. I'm always learning too. I've been doing it for a while, but I'm not one of these people who thinks that I'm the best in the world. So I'm learning just like everybody else. But yeah, hopefully this has been informative, And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next
Say affirmative or some shit like that.